Okay, so good morning. It's the 21st, it's Monday, and we have a big day. So the first thing I want to say is it's week 9. What that means in week 9 is that by Friday at midnight, according to the department rules, you absolutely have a cutoff deadline for all of the chapters 1 through 8 work for the semester. You may not submit any late work or redo work or anything past that deadline, okay? I think I mentioned that to you um, last week, yes? Okay. No matter what, double check all your assignments that they've been graded and that you have your most recent work submitted in case you're doing a back and forth with John that I'm not aware of. Because if there's not a grade for something, John will grade based on your final work that is submitted um, to him. But if I'm the one required to grade your final work, I will grade the final work that is submitted in Moodle. I don't know what you've emailed to John. I don't see what you emailed to John. So what that means is if there's work that you want regraded and you have the most updated version, you can upload to Moodle an additional file. If you can't upload your additional file to Moodle, then you delete the old file and upload the new file. Make sure you upload everything, your score sheet, and all of the work you want graded, okay? Because I have no history of your work. In other words, if you delete it off of Moodle, I have no access to something that used to be there. You understand what I'm saying? And if you don't have it in one complete PDF file, I won't be able to see it. So if you have a concern about it being graded and I'm going to be the one grading it, it's everything that is finally loaded into Moodle. That's what I'll grade it on. And I'll give you your grade based on what's uploaded there, okay? So make sure you're good. Make sure you're good to go. You don't want to give away these grades. You don't want to zero because you forgot to upload it, right? And if you have a concern about it, email both John and I. And also, when you email me, because my email is just up, make sure you double email me, which means email me to Pipeline and email me to the Victoria Torf link so you're sure that I got it. If you don't hear back from me, I'm usually pretty good at saying, gotcha, got your email, I know, it's all good. You don't hear back from me, double check. But don't double check after Friday because that's past the deadline. Any questions about that one? Alrighty. All right, I just want to make sure you all benefit the best you can. Okay. First thing I want to do is address what Jay said, which is a really important question about links. So very simply, I'm going to go to Finder. I'm going to go to some chapter assignment. Let's see something that has links. Here's something with all these links. That's great. And I'm going to walk through how to relink links and explain that to you because it's really critical. If you don't have linked files, things can't be properly printed. And then after I discuss that, we're going to talk about today, like we said, we're in week 9. And we're going to talk about color separations again. We're going to talk about the difference between vector graphics and raster graphics. We're going to talk about designing for 1-color and 2-color and full-color printing. And we're also going to talk about the next project you have after this chicken and skunk, which is a postcard, which has its own little universe of complexities. So today is going to be kind of a big lecture day, and hopefully if I can move through all that, that will free you up on Wednesday to come to class and get help with anything you need for working in Illustrator, okay? And I'll address working with the spot colors and how to work with them in Illustrator also. Okie doke. All right, so let me turn down the light so you can see the screen a little bit better. Better with them all off, yeah? Okay. All right. So let me just start by opening this file I pulled up here in InDesign. So I'm going to open this file called Document Layers, which I probably created last semester. And it was that Chapter 7 document where you build the hamburger bun using layers. And notice that I have all these linked PSD files. PSD stands for Photoshop document. And it doesn't really matter what I did with this assignment at all. What I want to show you is when you're in InDesign, you can go to Window Links and open the link panel, and you can tear it off like all the panels. And notice that there's no yellow warning signs and there's no red stop signs. And Jay, on yours, you probably have a red stop sign. Yes?
I'm not sure.
Maybe. Okay, if you open the links panel and your links aren't linked, and linking means there's a path. Here's my artwork of my remote control. I place my artwork of my remote control in my InDesign document, but it's not really put in it. It's just linked. The InDesign document, I'm so visual. Here's my InDesign document. Here's my little graphic, right? When you place your graphic in your InDesign document, it's not embedded. It's not really in the document. All it really is it's a path. It says, if I want this remote control to show up properly in my InDesign document, I need to know the path. And the path is you have to cross past the computer on the desk over to the document. So what that means is, let's look at this. If we look at the bacon, I click on it, it says bacon, and it says, it gives me information, my linking info, when I turn down this arrow here. And what it says is, it gives me the path. See the path? It says it's on this volume hard drive. It's in a folder called O4CS5 Artwork and Resources. Then another folder called 07 Artwork and Resources. Then in another folder called Document Layers. Then in another folder called Link. Then there's my bacon artwork. That's my path. What happens now, so that's my path. You've now seen my path. So I'm going to take my links folder and I'm just going to move it out where it was, and now it's here. See? I moved it outside of this Chapter 7 Artwork and Resources folder. You got that? Now look what happens. Okay, actually let me do that when this file isn't open because it followed me. InDesign's getting smarter and smarter. It's very frustrating. Okay, let me put it back. And let me close the document. I'm not going to save it. And let me document layers. Oh, I didn't put it back. I put it here. So it was here. Let me put it in the trash, which won't trash it. Now I open my document layers. Why is it still linked? Does it see it in the trash? No. Maybe I'm doing the wrong one. All right, let me do this again. All right, now I'm frustrated myself. I'm in the document layers. I'm going to move that to the desktop. Close the artwork. I'm not going to save it. Here's my document layers. Assignment. All right, let me do something different. This isn't going very well for me, is it? And maybe it's linked to something original, actually, which is possible. So it might be linked to something else that I'm messing with the wrong links folder. So that's maybe what the problem is. Let's see if it's still linked. Yeah, it is. It must be linked to something different. Okay. let's just try the poster. Let's try, you know what, let's see what's on the desktop. Here's my skunk folder. Okay, so remember the skunk I made the other day, the Illustrator file? Let's work with that and let's see what happens. So let me close this. I'm not sure why my path isn't working here, but okay, so I'm on the desktop. I'm addressing this folder, the skunk folder. I'm going to move my links folder and I'm going to put it outside the tour folder on the desktop. This should confuse it, but who knows. And let me trash this one in case it's the same thing. There's the links. All right, now let's see. Maybe this will show you. Now it's still linking. What do you know? It's really strange. Older one, replace it. Okay. So somebody's going to watch this video and it's going to be dead silent. And I just put that in the work folder. And close that and see if it now works. So let's go to InDesign. Let's go to my links folder here, which probably copied. Do we see any other link folder on this? No. All right. I don't know why this isn't working. All right. I'm not happy. Okay. I'm not sure why this isn't working. The whole point of links is that you understand the path. And maybe this is a CS6 thing, a CS Creative Cloud. That is something new that InDesign can now hunt down your links for you, but this is a little strange for me. Let me just do it like this. Let me try something different. Here's a new document in InDesign. I'm going to go to File, Place. I'm going to place a link, some random link. I'll place that skunk mate. My cursor loads. I place the graphic. I'm going to save the file. And I'm going to call it test. It's on the desktop. I can't stand my mess, so I'm going to clean up, reset essentials, and I'm going to close the document. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to go to the file called Skunk Mate, and I'm going to change the name of it so it won't see it. Okay, because I know, and now I'm going to open my test document, and this is what Jay gets. Okay, right, Jay?
I'm not sure.
You get, okay, if you have a document with a linked file, because I placed the skunk file in here called Skunk Mate, and it said, oh, you created the document, Skunk Mate's on the desktop of this computer, that's the path to Skunk Mate, because I didn't embed it in my InDesign document. And you don't embed it because you want to have it linked. And so if it's not linked and it can't find it when it opens the document, you get a warning sign that says this document has a link and it's missing. You can relink it in the links panel. So I'll say okay. And I'll open my document, and what it shows me is I get a red stop sign on my graphic, which means it's not linked properly. And I go to my links folder, and this is what I was looking for, is this red stop sign for the link, right? Which means it's missing. So the question is, how do you find it? Well, how you find it is, you click on the name of the graphic, you go to the chain link here that says relink, and then it lets you navigate to locate it. The reason you package it is because you'll know it'll be in your links folder, and it will on its own know to find it. Now, we would navigate it to, for example, the desktop, to the file. Remember, I changed the name. It was called Skunk Mate. Remember that? And I changed the name, which is why it can't see it, because the name's different. It's looking for a file called Skunk Mate, and I changed the name, so it doesn't exist. So what I can do to relink it is I'd look for Skunk Mate. Okay, so it's skunk space torf underscore mate. So for example, if I am back here to my original file and I change it to skunk space torf, it has to be exactly the same way, underscore mate. Wasn't that what I just said? Notice how the link, because the name is right, it sees it now because it's the same path and the same name. You understand that? That's not how you'd ordinarily change it. What would happen is you'd ordinarily have to go, let me change the name again and it won't see it again. Back to skunk. There we go. See, it doesn't see it because it has a different name. So what you do here, if you wanted to relink it, you'd highlight the link, you'd go to the relink panel, you'd locate the art you want to link it to, skunk, you'd click open, and you'd create a good link again. All right, did everybody follow that? And the reason you need to have linked files is because they're not embedded in InDesign, they need to be linked. So your file gets packaged and your link is seen and it resolves itself when it outputs through the image setting device properly. Without a link, without a viable link, with a missing link, your image will look chunky and you'll get what's called a picked preview of your graphic. You'll get a low resolution preview of what your artwork should look like. And the reason you don't embed artwork in an InDesign document is, think about like if you had a book and it had every photograph was a full page bleed. So every photograph was 100 megabytes in size. So if you embedded a 100 megabyte image for every page in InDesign, just start calculating how enormous your InDesign document would be. It would be monster. You wouldn't be able to work with it because you'd have these huge embedded files in it, which would make it monster size. You'll understand that? Did that help you, Jay? Did that explain it clearly?
Yeah, so I just like click on the layer or whatever.
So you don't go to layer, you go to window, you go to links, you get your links panel. You'll have little red stop signs here, or yellow means that it was modified. You highlight the artwork you're looking for. You click to relink. You locate the artwork you want to place. You highlight that. It tells you here the name of the file at the top. It tells you the name of the file you're looking for in case you forget. Like you might have a whole series of them. And then you click open, right, and it reloads. Now what happens is sometimes your links folder, which is what I was trying to show you, and I don't know why I failed miserably at it, to be honest. What happens is when you have a links folder and all these graphics and all these links are missing, you highlight one of them, relink it, and then a window is going to come up and say, all of your files, I found them all, do you want me to relink them for you? And you say, please do. And it will relink like your entire links folder. If you have like 12 missing and they're all in a links folder, that's what happens. Okay? Any questions about links? I'm not sure why the beginning part of this didn't work.
How do you package it the right way?
How do you package it? Packaging's not hard. You make sure that your links are here. And when you package, if your links aren't here, actually, let me show you what happens if you package and it's wrong. Let me change the name of skunk again. So now it's NK instead of skunk. What did I do? I linked it. I changed the wrong name. Okay, so now if I package it, I go to File, Package. This is how you package. I get a yellow warning sign that I have to pay attention to, and I read this. It says links and images, 1 link found, 0 modified, 1 link is missing. And so what I would do is I would click links and images, and I'd go relink it here. You want to make sure your links are not missing. So I'd relink it. I'd find the skunk file, which is Scorf, and it's relinked. And now I look here under summary, that yellow warning sign went away, right? And you click package, and you have to save your document before you package. And then this is what's called printing instructions. So I might send this to a printer and say, ship it to this person, print 7,000 of them, and so forth, because you might be shipping this overseas or something like that to a printer in Hong Kong. And you'd send the same package to Hong Kong as you would to Vermont, as you would to the guy around the corner. Same, it's universal. And you can click continue. It takes the name of your document, turns it into a folder. It brings over your links, it brings over your graphics. It makes sure that it's bringing your updated graphics. You click package. And what happens is the folder gets created where you placed it. Here's my test folder. It puts a copy of my native InDesign file in there, a duplicate one. And I have no fonts in this, just that graphic. And it put that graphic in a links folder. That's how you package.
Is instructions, that's for the printer?
It's for the printer. What happens is it generates a text file. This text file, which I'm opening, tells the printer when it was printed, gives all that information you would fill out there. Usually, in all truthfulness, I do not fill out my instructions. I don't, because usually when I'm sending a package, I'm handing them a proof of it printed, so they know what it's going to look like and what you expect it to look like, and how it's folded and compiled. And then I also write an email, because you're going to want to say, send me a copy, bill me to here, print that many, it's based on quote number, whatever. I hope you have a good day, right? You say nice things, right? But it's your choice, or you could do both, because it automatically will generate that text document. And so for your purposes, if you're a meticulous person, you might wish to fill out instructions, and they'll know to read it. You might also decide to call this, you know, when you load software and you get what's called a README file. Anybody ever seen that? You could call this README. And if you want them to know that it's custom, you can say, Kim, README. So they know that it's not just something generic in there, right? So hopefully that clarifies everything for you. Now, I would not send my package like this. What I would do is I would highlight my folder. I would go to File. This is on a Mac. Good morning. And with my folder active, I would go to compress the folder, and I would create one zipped file instead of a folder with a bunch of items in it. Now I can email this, and it's compressed together, so when you can email it or upload it to Dropbox, and they'll download it. Because, for example, I had a folder with I had a folder with 350 megabytes in it, and I wanted to upload it to Dropbox. But Dropbox will only let you upload 250 megabytes. So I zipped my folder, which made it 235 megabytes, and I could upload it to Dropbox. Any other questions? You guys are quiet. We got a lot to cover. Okay. Does that help you, Jay?
Does now.
Does now. Good. Okay. So make sure you've always packaged. Make sure that your links are good, and you'll be trouble-free. Okay. Let's just watch this. Let me pause this. Okay, let's see what we got. And what this one is. Okay, so we did this lecture, and we already saw the lecture on commercial printing. And now this one's a little complex. So this lecture is relevant to printing, and very important for you all to know. So make sure you understand this concept. Also understand you are quizzed on this information here, and it's in your book, but most of the content of it's going to come from this lecture today. So I want to make sure you're all clear about it, okay? So let's just start with how many colors are printing, and that one's not hard. And I think we already talked about this. We already went through this lecture of color printing, correct? Yes? No? No, I don't think we did, actually. All right, let's talk about it super quick. The difference between Pantone and CMYK inks. Let's see if the voice on this one. If we look here at our design work, if you're working in spot color, for example, and we look at this artwork right here, which unfortunately is really faded on the display, this is a one-color design. Some designer took one ink color, one spot color, created this eye logo. This is a business card, or this is a brochure. It's hard to see. It's a three-fold folder. Here's the cover of the folder. Here's the back side with the return address of the folder. Here's the inside flap of the folder. So we're only looking at one side of a brochure. And it's a one-spot color design. So it's as economical as black. You might pay $20 more for a special ink, but that's about it. So it's an economical print job. You could design that with one color. You could design it with black or blue or red or whatever. And it's all of these swooshes, and there's a tint background here. That's still a one-color design, which is the most economical. This, for example, is taking a two-color logo and the color blue and the color brown and using tints to create this swoosh here or this swoosh here, and work with the colors that are available to create a complete corporate identity package. Okay, so two-color design. Most printers are going to have either two-color, four-color, and larger printers will have 6-color, 8-color presses. There's really no 3-color presses. There's 1-color presses. Yeah.
If you have a client that wants a photograph type image
Yes.
as their logo,
Yes.
would you basically be forced to use all 4 colors?
If you have a client who has a photograph they want to use as their logo, you have to tell them a couple things, if they have one, for example. First off, you have to make sure that the resolution of the photograph is appropriate for all the uses that this logo may show up as. Because let's say it's a digital phone snapshot. Our iPhones take like 6 megabytes of information in a photograph, which is not bad. We get a pretty nifty little photograph out of that. You certainly get a great 4x6 high quality snapshot for a framed image, right? So that's certainly bigger than a logo would be. But what if they want to take that logo and they want to put signage on the outside of their storefront? You need to look at your client and you need to say, okay, you have a storefront and you want to use this full color image as your logo. Will we be able to get high quality for your signage? Will we be able to get high quality for your trade show display when your logo becomes this big? So you have to understand resolution and resolution of a photograph, and that's something we'll deal with in a week or two. And the other thing is your question was, that commits them to a full color design if it's a full color photograph, and the answer is yes, it does if it's a full color photograph. You need to say to them, okay, every time you print your logo, you're going to pay for 4-color design. If you print it on a brochure and it's on coated paper, you're printing a 4-color design and you're going to want a protective coating on it. So that's a 5-color design. And then you say to them, we can take your logo, let's say it's a logo, let's say it's a portrait studio, which is why they want a photograph as their logo, because it's a portrait studio, it's about taking photographs. You could say to them, we could choose a portrait and convert it to what's called a duotone and create a photograph that's 2 colors combined, or a grayscale image, which is 1 color only. So you can take a photograph and you're not committed to full color necessarily. You could make a black and white photograph, like a newspaper would, right? Or you could make what's called a duotone, which is a combination of 2 colors to enhance the image, but it wouldn't be full color. So it's not that you tell them you can't do it. You just need to have conversation about them making that commitment. If they're a business that's hardly going to ever print anything, and they're only creating a website, knock yourself out, color up. You know, it's whatever color you put on a website doesn't cost you more money. It's full color, and so it depends on what the business is and the use of it. It also depends on how much printing they might do. If they're a little startup company and they're only going to print 50 brochures anyway, full color is fine. They're printing 50 brochures. They're going to do it digital. They're not going to spend a lot of money for printing thousands of things. So if it's digital, they're going to spend, $1 a brochure anyway. Does that help you? Okay. Okay. And then 3-color printing is blank because it's rarely used. It's not a way to maximize your budget, put it that way. So, and then here is a 4-color print job, and just because it's full color, that looks kind of monochromatic, doesn't it? It looks kind of black and white with a little tint of pink, but it's still a full color print job. The overall quality of it is that it's black and white, but that's a full color photograph, and that's a full color photograph, and that pink wasn't made with a spot color. So that's 4-color printing. And just because you're doing 4-color printing doesn't mean you have to scream with color. You want to pick a color palette even in your full color printing that you control the mood of the piece based on the colors you select or the personality of the colors you select. And then 6-color printing would be something like we've looked at in those books where you add a varnish, you add a metallic ink, you add a flaming, screaming red spot color because it's a Ferrari poster. You get the idea, right? All right. So understanding as a designer how to guide people is important. Understanding as a designer what your cost is for you is important as well. And now we come back to this lecture, which is talking about something called trapping. And how many of you have ever looked at a printed piece or looked at the newspaper and seen that kind of misregistration thing going on here where type looks blurry or photos look blurry? Raise your hand if you've ever seen that on. Okay. That's called misregistration. So when something's printed, we've talked about those crosshairs when you create all marks and bleeds, the crosshairs, the registration marks that show up on your PDF file. That's used by a printer, a offset printer, not digital. Digital are pressing the button and it spits itself out and registers. But an offset printer is running your sheets of paper through, let's say for 4-color, it's running it through one press, and it's going around a cylinder 4 times, 4 different cylinders, 1 for each ink. If it's registered properly, it looks like this. If the paper has shifted or they haven't said the press person hasn't set it up properly, you might get something called misregistration where it's improperly aligned and you get this halo effect. Now, here's a cylinder which is printing this red ink or pink ink and laying down the artwork. And then the sheet goes through the press, and here's the blue cylinder laying down the blue ink on top of the paper and aligning, registering to the pink, okay? If it's trapped properly, which means the inks fit perfectly when they've created the printing plates, you won't get a misregistration issue. So let's talk about what trapping is. So trapping is basically you have a circle and you're filling in the circle with a color, right? So trapping is basically when you've created artwork that you have a circle and you fill it with a second color here, second color, not a tint of the same color, but a second color. You have to make sure that the color inside this circle fits perfectly to the outside edge of the circle. You all follow that? Okay. So if we look up here, if you have 2 colors and you haven't built in what's called a trap, where you create a little bit of overlap of your 2 colors, You might get a misregistration when it's printed, and it gets that white halo effect when it's printed because it's not registered properly. If you build in something called a trap, essentially what happens is you've built in something that either spreads the top color or shrinks the bottom color to fit and basically overlap your two shapes like this. So that box on top of that box overlaps a little bit. So if it doesn't register properly, you don't see that white halo. You just see that little darker edge, and that's called trapping. And trapping is designed by print shops, is designed for printing in order to make sure that everything looks like it fits perfectly when it's printed. So here, if it's registered perfectly and there's no trap, there's no little overlap on it. You can see it's perfectly registered. If it's still registered perfectly and it's built a trap, you see that little dark blue edge overlapping the pink. That's because the blue has spread, the software spread the shape of that blue square a little bit to build an overlap. Now, it used to be, in the olden days with computers, you had to build your own trap as a designer. So how many people in here want to be a t-shirt silk screener? Nobody. I always have somebody who does. You do. Okay. So if you want to silk screen t-shirts and you're going to generate multicolor silk screens, like not just one print on a t-shirt, but a couple, your job is to build a trap, and you might have to build it on your own. So understanding trapping is critical for you. If you're a silkscreen artist and you want to print artwork, silkscreen artists print there's a screen made out of silk. You use a roller and pull the ink through the screen, and you lift up the screen and pull out the paper and put in your next piece of paper and pull the ink through the screen again. And then let it dry and then put your second color down. If you don't build in a trap where something overlaps a hair, you might have that white halo or that look of misregistration. So understanding trapping is critical. And so here, for example, here's that pink square, and here's the blue one, and that's what the blue square was. But because the trapping was set up, the blue square was a little bit larger, created a little bit larger. It spread out a hairline, not visible really to the eye without a loop. It spread out, so it's basically overlapping this pink area a little bit, a hairline. So if it's misregistered, you don't see that white halo. What happens is, what you're lucky about is that your computer software does it all for you. But except when it comes to silk screening, you might have to do it yourself. So let me show you what this is like. So if we're in InDesign, I've created a page. Let me reset Essentials again. And let me place my skunk in here. The reason why I want to place my skunk is it's relevant for spot colors. Okay? And I'm placing my skunk because you remember when I place my skunk, it places my two spot color swatches. Do you remember that? Placed them in there for me. See, there's my two spot colors. And we know they're spot colors because they have a little spot in the ink. All right. So now I've got my two spot colors created. So let me show you what a trap looks like. Let me delete the skunk and the spot colors remain. And here's a square, and I'll fill my square with violet. And here's a circle, and I'll fill my circle with red. And here's a concept you need to understand. When you print this, this is what we talked about. Let's view it in preview mode. And let me zoom in here, okay? So when you print this, the reason this red stays red and the purple stays purple is because when you go to Window, Separations, we're going to view our separations here, which you need to do for the assignment you're working on anyway, right? Let me turn View Separations. What happens is if I turn off the red printing plate, I get white behind it. And what your software does is it creates something called a knockout. The software says the red is overprinting the purple. I mean, not overprinting. The red sits on top of the purple, and we don't want it to overprint. If I take this and I go to effects, our effects panel right here, and I go to the transparency panel, and for effects I hit multiply, that means that the red is overprinting the purple, and that's the color I get, right? You understand that? You get that? Okay. So now watch what happens. If I turn off the red, the purple doesn't go away. The purple's still there because I want that purple ink underneath my red. Yeah? You get that? All right, good. That's called overprinting. I created that. There's two ways to create it. One was I did the layer effects panel. Right here I went to effects, transparency. I changed it from normal to multiply, which was one way to do it. The other way is with this artwork active, I went to window, object, where is it? I want the word attributes. Attributes, output, there we go. So here's my attributes panel. With the red active, I click overprint, and I got the same effect. There's two ways to do it, right? Okay, so overprint means the red's printing on top of the purple doesn't go away below it. If I want the red to stay red, my software automatically creates what's called a knockout. It automatically tells the file, get rid of the purple below the red so the red prints red. It's called a knockout. That's it. It's automatically created for you. So when you create this artwork here, you've already got a knockout built. What the software will also do when your printer outputs your files is it's going to generate either something called a spread or a choke. And I learned this thing a long time ago. You can think of what a spread is like if you have a dark brown piece of toast, right? Toast it, you burnt it. You put butter on top of it, butter's light yellow, and you put the butter on top of it, and it melts. It spreads. Light color on top of dark color, right? That's a spread. The other thing is if you have the light color on the bottom and the dark color on top, you do something called a choke, where this chokes the dark color. Let me just demonstrate it in this graphic and InDesign. And it doesn't really matter whether you use the term choke or spread. All you really need to know is you're trapping the artwork. And how I would trap this red manually for you, Jay, how I trap the red is I would create a red stroke, and I'd create a hairline stroke. I'm making it big though so you can see it. And I would overprint it. And what happens is that stroke is overlapping my purple just a little bit, and that's going to trap it. So if it misregisters, like if you're silk screening a t-shirt, it gives a little forgiveness, because you're never perfect when you silk screen something, right? And never perfect actually when you print something. So the software InDesign and the output software, the post-scripting software that etches printing plates and creates film and all that kind of stuff, automatically provides the file with the information for what's called trapping. And so because it does it for you automatically, you say, Vicki, why are you like breaking your neck explaining this to us? Because understanding trapping and accurate registration is really important. When I go to a press check, that's what I'm looking for. I'm making sure my images are sharp and crisp and perfect. And how that's accomplished is through dead-on target registration for all your printing colors. All right? Is that clear for everybody? A straight knockout means there's no overlap. Here's a knockout of the letter A where the blue is choking into the pink in order to create perfect registration. So here, for example, if you're looking at original color shapes, you know there's a knockout created because they're not overlapping. If you overprint your colors because they're transparent, you're going to have these overlapping shapes and create different colors as a result of it. If you want to overlap your shapes and you don't want this overprinting to occur, you're going to have to trap them, right? And understand that the reason why the red doesn't show below it is because of an automatic knockout from the software. Is that confusing? It was clear? No questions? Okay, magic. Okay, that's good. You guys powered through that one. Okay, so you understand about color separations. You understand about trapping terminology. Let's see what this site is. This is a nice site about explaining more about trapping and terminology, if you can get through all the ads. And the only other thing I want to talk to you about is really introducing your next assignment to you, believe it or not. We often in this class have talked about when we do a mailing, the things we have to anticipate for a client. For example, your client might say, I want to send out a postcard to announce a sale for my store, right? That could happen. And it's your job to understand what size postcard is required by the post office to be legal. It's also your job to understand how much postage would be required for that size postcard. Anybody ever bought a greeting card from a store and it's a square envelope and it says in the corner extra postage required? Okay, that's because the post office says you're not conforming to our standard. It requires special handling. It doesn't slide through our automatic scanners, so you're slowing down our process, so we charge you more money for that envelope. It's your job as a designer to know when you design something, what's the standard size postcard that is saving your client money, because postcards mail cheaper than envelopes. It's also your job as a designer to understand when you're designing something that might be gorgeous and you specify paperweight that is so heavy, you've made your mailing, that's first class mailing, weigh more than an ounce. If it weighs an ounce, I don't know, what's postage stamp today, like 44 cents? Is that what it is? 46? I don't know. It changes every day, doesn't it? It goes up every day. Nobody mails anything anymore anyway, right? But you have to weigh it. You have to know that if you're designing something and it weighs over an ounce, you might be adding another 30 cents per mailing piece for your design work. And if your client's mailing out 5,000 pieces at first class and it's 40 cents a piece, let's say, I'm making that up, and you've now added an extra quarter, an extra 25 cents, and you times that by 5,000, you've added hundreds and hundreds of dollars to their budget, right? So it's your job to understand postal requirements, and how you do that is you can always go just to the UnitedStatesPostOffice.com. Whether it says page found or not, you can find it. If you don't know, I send my daughter packages all the time. I send them to Israel. So I don't know how much something costs. So I have to weigh it, and then I have to look up, calculate a price, and then I have to decide if it's domestic or international and where I'm sending it and what the cost is. So the same information is available to you for United States Postal Service, USPS.com, is for managing your mail, looking for business solutions, how you do business mailings. That same information for scanning business reply mail that I told you about my little nightmare story, right? So know that you can rely on all that information here. Now, one of the things that we're going to do is your next assignment is you're going to create a postcard. And because postcards require specific postal information and postal guidelines, this assignment is going to guide you through that. So here we are. This is the assignment. You're going to design basically a 2-color postcard, and you need to pay attention to the postal requirements, which are here, postal regulations, which again takes you to the website. And if you click on this right here, it's a downloadable PDF file which tells you mailing specifications that you have to pay attention to when you design your postcard, so you're not creating something that can't be accurately mailed through the United States Postal Service. Okay? So let's go over the requirements for all this. Let me Let me download this and save the file and go over the requirements here for your assignment. So you're going to design something with all the criteria that we talked about just a second ago. So I'm trying to think how to walk through this. All the requirements for this assignment are found on this link. It's very similar in the sense that you are working with only 2 spot colors. You're going to work with an Illustrator vector graphic. You can work with your own Illustrator vector graphics. You can make your own. You can find your own. You don't have to work with what's supplied for you. So let's walk through the parameters of the assignment. The goal is that you work with an Illustrator assignment and an Illustrator graphic, and you convert it to 2 spot colors, that you typeset some interesting text, that you set up the assignment, that you set up the project because it's a mailable, United States mailable postcard. You're going to have to include the requirements for a postcard, which include something called an indicia. Does anybody know what an indicia is? Okay, let's come back here. Has anybody ever seen symbols that look like this on a piece of mail? Those are called indicias. And an indicia takes the place of a stamp, and it's basically a company that does a mailing, a mass mailing. They'll have a business permit number with the post office where they put money into their postal bank account, basically, their postal account, and they will have this business permit, and they will do mass mailings using their business permit. The indicia is printed directly on the piece with their permit number, with the information required by the post office. And on your postcard, you're going to set up an indicia. Now understand, these indicia show up as black, and if you added black to your 2-color postcard, how many colors would you have? 3. So your indicia is going to print as one of the 2 spot colors. All right? And here are sample indicias for you. So if the indicia you set up looks like this, I'll help you set it up. That would be great. So let's come back again to the requirements for here. So here's your assignment. And so your specifications, you can create any design you want. You can use any vector graphic you want. You should have at least 2 vector graphics in your design. Your design is limited to 2 colors. The size of your postcard is provided for you here, but there is criteria that you have to include in your assignment because you're also going to have to articulate your design. In other words, talk about your design and how you set it up. You're going to have to talk about what traps, what knocks out, what overprints, and where you created something called reverse type. Does everybody remember what reverse type is?
Paper.
Say it real loud.
When you set the color to paper.
When you set the color to paper. So it's the paper color showing through as reverse type. It looks white on your screen, but yes, reverse type. Okay, you may use only 2 spot colors in this assignment. Right here is a link to some Illustrator files provided for you. So if we're here, went to the downloads folder, and right here, if you double click on this file, you'll see there's an Illustrator file. It might be opening in preview. I don't think it should. It should open in Illustrator. Come on. Oh, I had to launch Illustrator. I thought it was open. Anyway, and so there's vector files provided for you, but this is your first assignment where no artwork's really given to you. You can use these if you want, but let me show you a couple things about Illustrator. How many of you want to learn a little more about Illustrator? In here, raise your hands high because I can't see when it's by your, okay. All right, do you want me to demo a little bit more about Illustrator today? Okay. So here's the illustrations that are provided for you. Here's some stock art. And what you know about Illustrator is it has layers just like Photoshop, just like InDesign does. And
eye is turned on for this layer, and here's this layer, and here's this layer, and this layer, and this layer. And if you think these are super cool graphics, then feel free to use them. Remember that that you need to have at least 2 graphics converted to spot colors. And you can always take a graphic like this one, and you can always choose to, let me zoom in. Remember how clip art graphics are always grouped? So you can always go to Object, Ungroup, and I can hold my Shift key down and select all the shapes of this sailboat, hold my Option key down, and set my sailboat aside. And you can always break apart your graphics and use different things as you design it. So how you choose to work with it is up to you. But let me show you a couple other things. Somebody needs to give me a subject matter for a postcard. Anybody got any ideas for me?
Halloween.
Halloween. Perfect. Okay. So that's great. So I probably, because I didn't see anything very lovely or Halloween-y here, I probably would choose to go to a stock art, clip art website where I can download graphics. And one of my favorite is Vecteezy. And I can go to Vecteezy right now and look at, they have Halloween themes already, and it's free. And so, for example, I could type in, oh, I clearly didn't want to type in there, did I? Here, that's what I was trying to get to. Halloween. And here's what Vecteezy offers me for free artwork, right? And I can download any of these. So, so I think I like, oh, I'm in that kind of mood today. I think I'll I don't want an account, but thank you. Don't worry, your download will continue. Okay. Your file automatically downloads in a second. Okay. There we go. So I've downloaded my file. Yeah, Kim?
I'm sorry, I gotta head out. My boyfriend's flight is canceled.
Got to go pick him up?
Yeah.
But you get to watch the video.
Yeah, it's recorded, so
It's recorded.
thank you. Sorry.
Okay, drive safely. All right, so I've got my witch. And he's super cute to me personally. So, don't you think so?
The zombie or the witch?
Well, the zombie's really cute. The witch is just me. There we go. Do you think the zombie's cute?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. All right, so I've downloaded 2 free graphics. All right. And somebody created them. They posted them here. They created them as a SVG file, which stands for something vector graphics. We can look it up. John will remember. Now it's going to really bother me. Which, scalable. There you go. Scalable vector graphics. Something vector graphics, I know. Yeah, that worked, right? Worked for me. Okay, scalable vector graphics. So now I've downloaded free vector graphics. Okay, and I've downloaded 2, and they're going to be a complex design. I don't know what I'm in for, so I'm going to look at them. I'm going to go to my downloads folder. I'm going to unzip my zombie, and I'm going to unzip my witch, which is spelled wrong, and I'm going to find my scalable vector graphic, open it through Illustrator. Okay, and now I can look at it. And what I first do when I download a file is I go to Outline and I see how it's created. So it's a little chaotic, right? And I might not want all of the stuff that I see here. So, for example, what I was most enchanted by was my cute zombie. He's fun. All right, and now I'm also going to go to File Open, Command O for File Open. I'm going to go back to my downloads folder and look at my witch and see how she's made. So she's a native AI file. She's not a scalable vector graphic file. She's a native Illustrator file. And I'm opening her, and I'm going to look at her. All right. So then I'm going to decide what my color palette's going to be. And since it's Halloween, we may as well go with black and orange, right? That makes sense. So let me do this. So let me this is an Illustrator file. It's a witch. I don't need all this excess stuff. Let's view how she's created. She's got gradients going on. There's a haunted house back here. There's a broom. When you get clip art, when you get somebody else's graphic, you really don't know how it's built. So you have to kind of take a look and disassemble it. But I'm going to start right here by going to, I'll go back to View Preview to answer you and you, George, about how you create your colors. I see I didn't forget, right? We're going to go to open our swatch library in Illustrator. That's where you start. Start with Illustrator. So we go to swatch library, and we want to work with Pantone Matching System color books. So here we are. We go to color books, and we always want to select a solid color. I start with solid coated or solid uncoated. We want to make sure it's solid because we don't want to work with process colors. We want to work with a spot ink. So now we get our solid coated library open, and here we go. Now, let's understand something really clearly. If I work with black itself, if I work with black, process black, it's a spot color, even though it's part of CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black. If I work with only black, it's still one spot color. I can specify Pantone black coated, and I'm going to, just because I want you to see that spot next to the ink color. Hi, John. Good morning.
Hi. Morning.
And I'm going to go open my swatch panel so you can see the colors load. So there's my spot black. And I'll scroll through here to find some good orange color. I'll probably pick something kind of deep. So I'll select that. And now I've got my two spot colors here. And I'm going to close my panel because I don't want to make the mistake of selecting something I don't want to work with. Okay, so let me set them aside here. Now, let's go back to our assignment and start evaluating it, which is, I guess this took me away from my page. There we go. So my document size is 6 by 4 1/4. So let me just start by building it. So let's close this up. Let's make a new document. It's going to be 2 pages. It's actually going to be 3 pages because your third page is going to require you to fill out information. I'm going to turn off facing pages. I'm going to make it 6 inches wide because I'm going to make a postcard that's wide, not tall. And it's going to be 4 1/4 high. And I will, of course, build in my bleed right here of 1/8 of an inch all around. And I'm going to create my margin guidelines a little bit smaller. And I'm pretty good to go here. And there's my document, okay? So I'm going to just, because I've created something, and I'm going to go to File, Save As, Postcard. And I'm going to put it on the right here. Now, one of the things I do recommend you doing when you create your postcard is to create a mock-up of it. So looking at my graphics that I have to work with here in Illustrator, I've got a witch, I've got bats, I've got, can you see all that on the screen? I've got a castle in the clouds, I've got a fun little moon, and then we have my buddy here, the zombie on the ground. And so probably I'm going to start to disassemble this. But what I'd like to do is this. Here's an easy way to make sure that you're making sure you have the same colors loaded in both of your graphics. What I might do is just draw a box, fill it with a spot orange. Draw another box, fill it with a spot black. Watch how easy I make this for you guys. Select them, hold my shift key down, select both of them, copy them, Command C, go to my zombie and paste it right here. And look what happened to my color swatches. I brought in exactly the same color swatches, so I'm not going to make it a mistake in the color I select. So I saved myself a little bit of effort, yeah? And then I'm going to save my zombie file as a native Illustrators file in case I accidentally close this. I'm going to put it on the desktop. There we go. I'm saving it. And I'm going to save my witch just because that way I'm going to put her on the desktop also so I can find her. Just so I know I've got my spot colors loaded with her in case I close this and have to hurry and leave class, right? All right. So now I'm looking at my graphic, and let me describe this because I'm not going to draw a mock-up for you. But I think what I'm going to do on my postcard is I'm going to have the sky. I really like this little cloudy background thing going on, and I like the moon. And I want my witch to fly in the air, and I think I want my zombie to sit on the bottom of the page for my graphic, right? One's on the ground, one's in the air. And so I think what I might do is start to break apart my witch. So I highlighted this. Let me get rid of my squares. So I highlighted it, and notice it's all grouped. So I'm going to go Object, Ungroup. All right? And then I'm going to start to see how it's built, and it's grouped again. So I'm going to ungroup that. Now I'm trying to grab my sky. And old vector graphics are weird. This is how they made this weird gradient here. So I'm going to start deleting things. Oh, and I've got something going on here. Look at that. It's a gradient fill. So I'm looking at it and I'm saying, oh, they made that radial gradient fill glow, right? So I could make that background in InDesign, or I could make it with my witch, but I'm just going to remember I could do my own gradient fill in InDesign. So I'm going to keep just getting rid of things here. Yeah.
Can you go to the history of the file?
That's a really excellent question. No, I can't. There is no history panel in InDesign, I mean in Illustrator. There is in Photoshop, but not in Illustrator. So I'm stuck. And I can look and see if, we'll go to Window Layers. I can see if things are divided by layers, but they're not. So I can turn down the layer panel and grab separate paths that are built into the layers in Illustrator if I want. But I'm going to keep this really simple for you guys. I'm just going to show you how I start to break things apart and delete things, basically. I just start clicking on shapes until I start to isolate my witch, because I know how to make a gradient in InDesign. There's my moon, right? I might keep my moon. But I'm going to start to, and then here's my bats. I might keep my bats. Because if you're working with something too chaotic, it's going to get hard for you to work with it. So I recommend simplifying things for yourself. And here's my castle. Okay, so, and let's get rid of the cloud for the witch. And now and there's another cloud. And here's my witch. Now, she's made up of all these different parts. But I think what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to ungroup her. Object, ungroup. And I'm going to make my life a little easy because you guys already know how to work with tints, right? So I'm going to select this black, and I'm going to go to Select, and I'm going to go to Same Fill Color. And now I've selected everything black on my witch, right? This is what we did this before the other day. And notice it didn't select anything here in the haunted house. And just bear with me for a minute. I think I'm going to make this simpler. I'm going to deselect her eye. I'm holding my Shift key down, and I deselected her eye. And here's all these little parts of my witch that are the same. And I'm going to select her shoe back here, even though I guess it's not exactly the same color. And I'm going to select her broomstick because it looks black to me. And I'm going to select this part of her hat. And now watch what I'm going to do. In InDesign, just like in Illustrator, just like InDesign, there's something called the Pathfinder tool. And she's all these moving pieces. And you don't have to do what I'm doing. But I'm just making her shape simpler. And there's something called the Pathfinder tool. And it's going to unite all these selected shapes of mine. So they become one. Watch how the vector shapes simplify, and now they became one big witch. And now I can take this part of the witch, go arrange, and send her to the back. So that just made her easier for me to work with. And now I can select her face, and I can make it orange, or I can make it, I can go to Window, color, or I can make it a tint of the orange, right? And let's say I don't want this shaded stuff. Remember how things are made really strangely? Do I need that? I pulled the piece off. Well, let me get rid of that because I don't want to make it too complicated for myself. And she still looks like a pretty nifty witch, right? And she's going to be flying really small in the air anyway. So maybe I'll make that white, and I'll make her wart on her nose red or black, the spot black. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. And her broom can still be solid black, or it can be the gradient black. So if I look at my gradient here in InDesign, in Illustrator, I keep calling it InDesign, you can change the gradient. I can take this spot black and drag it here, and take this black and remove it. Come here. Spot black. Show options. Okay, I think it should be spot color. And we'll make this one a tint of this spot black and drag it over here and pull that one off. I want to make sure it's the tint. I want to make sure that's the tint. It is. You looking at my color swatches? Okay, so now we know that I can now go to View. Remember, we're in Illustrator, Separation Preview, and I want to see what I've got as black. So let's turn on Overprint Preview, and let's turn off my spot black and see if most of the witch goes away. Okay, I didn't change her yet. So now we click on the black part of the witch, we make her solid black color. Right? Gosh, she looks like a different color. So let's turn off this black and see where my witch goes away. Right? Y'all follow me? Okay, so we know that even though this looks black, I'm going to have to get rid of these shapes. So let me go to Select, Same, Fill Color, and I'm just going to delete them because I have a feeling it's not going to impact my artwork. And now let's turn back on the black and see if she still looks like herself. She does. See, these clip art things have all these random little parts that get you into trouble, and knowing how to look at them and sort through them is useful. I'm going to take my bats. I'm going to make them spot color black. And so then I'm just going to focus on my witch's face now. And here, so she's orange, right? And I made her a tint of that orange here. I'm going to select her hands right there. Select same fill color of her hands. And I can eyedrop her face so they match her face. Now they're her face color. I can select this one and make it a tint of the orange spot color again. And go in her mouth here and maybe just leave that as black or a tint of black. And we'll make her teeth a tint of the black, right? And we'll make her eye orange because I want it scary. And we'll take her eyebrows and her nostrils and we'll make them orange because we can. Or we'll make them, that's good, or good. So now I want to look at my witch and see what I missed. We'll take her little buckle here and we'll make that spot orange. And if I turn off my orange and I turn off my black, I've got this piece, holding my shift key down, this piece. I'll make it orange. It should go away. And let's see how my witch looks now. She looks pretty good, right? And she's 2 spot colors. So let me zoom out here. Let me reset my essentials in Illustrator. Let me take my bats. Let me copy them. Make a new file in InDesign. Command N. Let me paste my bats. Let me save my bats as bats, Illustrator. Right? I made another file out of them so I can work with them. I'm going to save them. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to look at my swatches and make sure I have my 2 spot colors in here. Yeah. I'm going to make sure that I set this up in the 2 spot colors here in this Illustrator file. Turn on Overprint Preview. Look at my 2 bats. Turn off my spot black. They go away. So the bats are set up properly, right? All right, close that, did that well. So I can now delete my bats. I'm not going to worry about this moon. That's going to take us too long. And I'm not going to worry about the house. I don't want to take us too long. But now I'm going to turn off my orange and turn off my black, and I have nothing on my screen. So I've set up my witch. I'm going to save her as witch. And I'll call her to spot colors. And she's on my desktop. Say OK. And now in InDesign, so I'm back to InDesign now. And I'm going to reset my essentials. I can go to File, Place. And I can place my witch. Say Open. And it's telling me it's got complex PostScript information. We're going to save it as something new. Let's open this up and see what our trouble is. Edit original. There we go. Let's see what happened to her. There's nothing weird there. So let's go to File, Save As. Let's make sure it says Illustrator, 2 spot colors. Let's save it again because that shouldn't happen. Let's replace it. Let's see what we're doing. Let's save it as Creative Cloud. That's fine. I don't see anything weird here. Let's try it again, see if we get the same thing. File, Place, Witch. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. We're going to save her backwards. Save her as an Illustrator file. What version of Illustrator are we going to save her as? We're going to save her backwards so you don't get confused, and we'll save her to Illustrator 6. And it's going to say you may get weird things happening, and I'm going to say just fine, it's fine. And now let's see if she places better. Let's go to File, Command D, File, Place, Which, 2 spot colors. I don't know why that's happening. Let's see. All right. So what it says to us is take the witch, go to File, Save As, save it in Illustrator, it says Replace, says add a PDF compatible file to it, say OK, now it's saved. Now we go back to InDesign. I've never had this happen before. Let's go to File, Place, Command D. Let's find our witch again. Now she should be pretty. Now she's beautiful. There she is. And she's going to fly here. And she's huge. So instead of just clicking, I can just click and make her the size I want. Click and drag the size I want. When we go to swatches, our color panel, our color spot colors have loaded. Remember that glow of nighttime, remember that? I can go right here since my spot color is loaded. I can go to my gradient panel. I can double click on it. I can drag my, I can take my spot black color. I can change it to a tint. And I can drag it right here to my gradient panel right here. And make sure this is the one I've loaded. Let me take away that black. And look, it says spot color. I can take this one here and let me go to my color panel. Let me make a tint of that black. Let me add it to my swatches. I like leaving all my panels open when I do this. Okay, here's a tint to my swatch. Let me drag it and add it to my InDesign document. Let me take that tint to my swatch and add it to my gradient. Let me yank off the white. Here's this. Let me change the tint of this one. Sorry, I know this is taking longer than I anticipated. Here's black. Here's my color. I don't want it quite solid black. I'm going to drag it, add it to my swatch panel. Now I've got a 63% black and a 49%. Let me add this one to our gradient. And let me change our gradient to a radial. And I can change how large, our change of our radial gradient is. And now I can go here to the rectangle tool. I can go all the way from bleed to bleed to bleed. And I can select my gradient as a fill, not as a stroke. There we go. And I can go to Object Arrange, and I can send it to the back. And now my witch can sit on top of it, and I can see it, right? So you get the idea how you build this. I don't want to take too much time working on this because you guys will die. The part that I want you to focus on, and we'll focus on this a little bit on Wednesday too. The part I want you to focus on for the assignment is here. There are the postal requirements, and if we look at the postal requirements here, I think I downloaded the file, but I'll just open it. On the back side, the mailing side of your postcard, you need to have a place located for your indicia. What happens is if you put a mailing address right here, the post office scans your postcard, your address, your envelope across the page. So if you have a complete address like come to my Halloween party at this location and you put your address of that information here, you may get all your postcards coming to your house when you want them to go to your friend's house because you mailed them over here. You understand this? Does that make sense? So you need this area clear to write your address. You may use this area that's yellow and put type in it, but if there's a zip code in that area and a complete address, the scanner through the post office will see that address before it sees the address to who it's supposed to go to, and it'll send it there instead. The other thing is, how many of you have sent a postcard and at the bottom of the postcard you see all these vertical lines, barcode? The post office puts the barcode there when it sorts it for where it's going to go, and so you have to keep this area clear enough that the post office can put their barcode on there. So you don't want to have black on that side and in that area because the post office can't put their barcode on there. Everybody get that? All right. So let's take a look at our postcard here. So we're back in InDesign. We've created a 2-color graphic. Here's what we see. We might decide that right here we're going to use our ellipse tool. I'm going to hold my shift key down, and right here we might decide to fill this with stroke it with none and fill it with let's go to window color. We'll go to swatches and fill that with white because that's our moon, right? And we might decide, and this is just our artwork side, so here you can do whatever you want, right? Down here I can put my cute little zombie. I don't want you to wait while I sort of my zombie. But you could put the whole little scene and make this what you want. You're required to put type in here. You're required to set up type properly. I believe that you're required as part of this assignment to use reverse type, I think I told you. Let's see. You are. Here's your requirements. This goes on page 3. You would highlight all of this and you would fill it out. So you are required to create a high resolution PDF file with all marks and bleeds using document bleed settings. You're required to set up your artwork with only 2 spot colors. You're required to make the postcard size exactly what's asked of you right here on the upper left. You're required to put the correct return address information in the correct location on the postcard and about the correct proportions and size. For most people, I'm surprised how many people nowadays don't know how to put a return address on something. Here's the flip side of the postcard that gets mailed. And what happens is here you're going to make a type box that's probably about in size, this type box, for the indicia, and it's probably less than an inch wide. It's less than 3/4 of an inch wide and probably less than an inch tall, so maybe about that size. And in this box, you can stroke it if you want with a hairline. And of course, you have to stroke it. If you stroke it, you have to use a spot color. So I stroked it with a spot color, and I'll put a hairline on it. This is for my indicia. And it's a type box because I'm going to click in it. And your indicia is going to say something like, let's say bulk, right? And you can look at indicias as samples. And I'm going to select all, and I'm going to make my type, let's say, 7 points. And it's going to be maybe 9-point leading. And it's probably going to be centered. And it's going to be optically kerned. And it's going to be whatever font that I want. And I'm going to go to Object Text Frame Options, Command B. And I'm going to inset my spacing to make sure that my text doesn't touch the edge of this indicia. And I'll inset it about 2 points. And I will vertically center the type that sits in here. And this will say bulk rate, U.S. postage, and then new line, paid. Then it's going to say permit number. And you can make up a permit number. And I'm going to need smaller type. And then you're going to say the city that you're sending it in. So let me make my type smaller and my leading tighter. And it's going to be Santa Barbara or whatever city, and comma CA. And I probably need to make this a little bit bigger. There. And I can lead this out so it's spaced in my box a little. And you can look at those indicias and identify them. And your indicia will sit about 1/8 of an inch from the upper right corner of your page, right here. I'm going to hit my Option key to duplicate this. I'm going to eliminate my stroke, and I'm going to hit Command B and get rid of my text insets there. And here I'm probably going to create my return address, which is new line, and the zip, what's the zip here? Does anybody know? Okay, well, it works for us, right? Thank you. Okay, and go back to my object text frame options and set my type to the top. And generally your return address is at the top here, right? Why isn't this flush left? There we go. And this is your mailing side. So let's do something. I think I downloaded the PDF file. So let's take a look at this again. And it doesn't have to be precise, but let's look at, let me see if in my downloads folder. Here we go. United States Postal Requirements. So let's look. So it doesn't have to be 1 1/4 inches by 1 1/4 inches, but that's where the indicia goes. In the upper left corner, in this area, that's where the indicia goes. You would need 2 3/4 inches width over on the right for your mailing address, right? You need 5/8 of an inch at the bottom of this card here for the barcode. So for example, you might just drag a guideline down from the bottom here, which is 4 1/4. So you might just say, here's the area that you know you can't put any type because the barcode is going to go there. You could have a gradient. So for example, I could take, let's say, this gradient from this side here and hit Command C, copy. And I can hit paste in place right here and send to back. And I can, for example, because I want this to be a soft gradient, I don't want to end it with a hard edge like this, which would look kind of silly to have all this white on a big dark background. Plus I can't mail, I have to write with black type here so it's readable. So my graphic maybe becomes this area, or maybe what I decide to do instead is not make this side black at all, because you have to make sure that it's very readable. So you might have dark, fun graphics here. Like let's pretend this is my zombie, or let's put my bats here. 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 You can have your graphics here, right? And place graphics here, but you know you're going to have to create this clear zone down at the bottom. And you can put text here. So this is where maybe I would put all my text about whatever it is I have to say, my sale, my Halloween party, buy your costumes, whatever it is. It can go here. You just need this area for your mailing information. You can use this area for type or graphics. You need this area for your indicia, and this area down at the bottom here should stay clear for the post office. It can be a light tint. So for example, I could take my bats, send them to the back. I can make my box that my bats are in super big, and the background of my bat box is, I'm going to make it orange, and I'm going to go to my color panel right here, and I'm going to change the tint of my orange to light orange, okay? And I can't see my return address here, so I can put my return address up here, right? Y'all with me? All right. Now, let's look again at the requirements for this. So it requires correct indicia information. It requires correct return address information. It requires that you spell check. Don't submit this with typos. You get to type anything you want, spell it right. Unless it's intentionally some word that you're making up for Halloween, like, I don't know, some screaming sound, right? And then on page 3, you're going to do this. You're going to highlight this. You're going to copy it. You're going to go to page 3 of your InDesign document right here. You're going to create a text box right here. You're going to paste this information, and it's going to say what overprints and what's got a transparency applied. Well, nothing right now because we haven't finished creating this. Are you guys hanging in there? Do you want me to see this through to the end? You got 20 more minutes to hang with me? All right. So let me just finish creating this graphic. So here we are on our witch page. I'm going to make her bigger. And I'm going to make the moon bigger behind her. And I'm going to send both of these to the back. Oops. I want this to go to the back. And her to come to the front. Come here. There we go. Because now we look at this. And now I can write all kinds of things here, correct? Okay, so now I can go to Object Arrange, Fill with Placeholder Text. And you're not going to do that. You're going to write things, and you're going to create pretty type, and you're going to, what's my headline for this? Somebody help me with a headline. God, you guys. I'm feeling clever right now. That was good. We'll get rid of those. I arrived at my cleverness, finally. What do you think? That was good, right? Thank you. I needed somebody to like validate me. All right, let's look for Halloween. Oh, let's go to Blackmore. Not Black Oak. Moor. There we go. That was good. Found that. All right, so here's Halloween. We're just going to make this as big as we can possibly make it. And we're going to make it overlap her black. There we go. Now this is what I want you to see. Okay, so here's my headline, and I can put whatever type I want. But what I want you to see here is if I go to Window and I go to Separation, Output, Separation, Preview, we knew that I built my witch well because we checked her out in Illustrator. So because this is orange type, and because hopefully I built my gradient with the correct spot black, if I turn off my spot black, good, I'm good. If I turn off my orange, I'm good. Now look what happens when I turn off my orange. What did my orange type, Halloween type do? Oh, good job. Right. So let's go look here. Let's go to page 3 of my artwork. And what does it say? Where did I create a knockout? So what can we say right now? Where's the knockout? Right? Where and what? The word Halloween. Knocks out witch hat. That's it. Page 1. Right? Okay. Now, what image file format is my bat and my witch? Illustrator. So I saved it as a .ai file for my bat, page 2. And my witch is a .ai, page 1. You guys will type better than I do, right? Please. Thank you. Okay. So one of the things we do, which we haven't done together because I didn't take the time to sketch out what I'm doing, but let's look at my witch here. So let me turn back on my orange. I'm not done with my design, but you start talking about how you designed it. Remember when we talked about the design principles about an asymmetrical design and balance and centered and alignment? You remember that? And was it Ed or Jay? I don't remember which one of you decided that the iguana, maybe it wasn't either of you, but decided the iguana with all the stuff on the far right was better than the one that was, you know what I'm talking about in that lecture? So you're going to talk about alignment. You're going to talk about how you apply the design principles. So right now I've really created an asymmetrical design because I've created negative space by the huge scaled moon, right? So you're going to talk about the proportion of the moon in terms of scale and an alignment, for example, the alignment of your objects and the unity of elements. So right now the unity of elements is basically the witch waiting down the right side of the page until we place my graphics here. And so what else is required for me on this assignment? So let's go back down to page 3, reverse type. So I don't have any reverse type, but let's say if I go back to the top here, maybe what I do is I decide that I want to have type on a path. So right here, I'm going to put type on a path. See if that worked. Working with black on this is really hard for me. Here, here, here. Let me make that a color so we can see it. How's that? We'll make it orange so I can see it. And I'm going to move it so I can still see it and not mess around with things. Actually, I'm going to put it on a separate layer. Let's go to layer. Let's lock this. Let's make a new layer. We'll make this my type layer. We'll say OK. We'll paste the path. Now I can go to my type tool and go to type on a path. And I can type on it without things getting in my way. And we're giving our witch a name, which is Zelda. And we're flipping that over. So I clicked on it. I flipped it over by dragging it. And because it has to be reverse type, we're going to make it white. And we're going to pick some beautiful font, but we'll make it black more to go with. That looks pretty good, actually. And we'll take it and grab it, and we'll put it on her shirt because she's got it silkscreened by Jay. And we're going to unstroke what's under her. And so now what you'd say is, you'd say Zelda's reverse type on the witch, right? Does everybody understand that? Okay. And the reason why this is all required of you is to understand how to speak this terminology and to know how to work with your files. Then we haven't done an overprint yet or a transparency. So for example, maybe what we decide, I don't want to redo more artwork for you, but maybe what we decide is this. Maybe we decide that we go back to our native Illustrator file for the witch. So I can click on the witch. Let me unlock this layer. Let me click on the witch. Let me hold my control key down here for the witch and go to Edit Original. It'll open in Illustrator. Let me decide that I'm taking the broomstick, I'm copying it, Command C. I'm going to a new document, Command O. I'm pasting the broomstick. I'm going to use my rotation tool, which is the same in Illustrator as it is in InDesign, and drag it down here. And just like in InDesign, I'm going to create, I can create a pen tool stroke, or I can use my rounded rectangle tool and create a super skinny rectangle to look like my broomstick, right? I've already got my black spot color selected, so I can make it solid black. And now I've created another Illustrator file, which is called Broom, right? And I can say OK and save it, and say OK. And I'm going to double check it before I leave by turning my overprint preview on, turn off my black, everything goes away. So this is also a spot color file, right? Now let's go to my InDesign document. Let's go to this page where I put that orange background. Let me make this a little smaller so we can see it. And what I can do here is I can go to File, Place, take my broom, say Open, my cursor loads. I'm going to click and drag like that. I'm going to rotate the broom here in InDesign, go to my Scale tool, go to Rotate, take this box, rotate my broom, right? Have it bleed off the edge of the page. I think it also asks you what elements bleed for this assignment. We'll rotate it a little more so it looks like the witch is off the page because we already have the association of the broom, right? And now with this graphic box, I have two choices. I can't do attributes fill because the graphic is a place graphic from Illustrator, but I can go to Window, Effects, with this box active, change it from normal to multiply. Actually, let me leave it at normal. And let me show you what happens on this page. If I turn off the black on this page, the bats knock out the orange and the broom knocks out the orange, right? If I, with this active, select multiply for the broom, see how you can see the orange through the gradient of the broom, which is prettier, I think. And now if I turn off the black, see how it doesn't knock out the orange? So I would say on page 3 for overprint, I'd say the broom overprints the orange background on page 2. Get that? All right. I can fill the bottom of my postcard here with this light orange because black from the post office will still show up since it's such a light tint. It's not a problem. It's not a problem to have my indicia be on this light orange background. But if I have a concern about it, I could always just fill it with white, like that, right? So you get the idea how you build all this?
I have one question about the colors. No, still no. You did the skunk, you had all these colors.
The tints.
You mix them or whatever.
How do you mix the tints?
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm in InDesign, okay, let me go back to Illustrator. If I'm in Illustrator, how can I mix all these tints of the black? The fast way to do it is there's something called Color Guide. So let me do this. Let me draw a orange box right now. So we've got something orange here. So one of the things I would do right now is I would go to select all unused colors and clean up this palette because it's too crazy to look at for me. So I want to get rid of everything. Yes. And then what I can do to add tints of my colors is I can just go to my color panel and I can show all my options right here. Just show options. There we go. And I can eyedrop a tint and I can just drag it to my swatch panel, right? I can eyedrop another tint, drag it to my swatch panel. Eyedrop a different one, drag it to my swatch panel, right? That's one way to make tints. I can go to something called Window Color Guide right there, which is right here. And wherever I see the little spot colors, nothing below it, it has to have spot colors, and not this one because you'll duplicate your 100%. You don't want to do that. But I can hold my Shift key down and select all of these tints and add those. And then whenever I'm creating something, I can just grab from any of these swatches here to change my color. And I don't have to redo it, right? Now I do want you to see something about overprinting. I'm sorry, and knocking out. These are all orange, correct? So here's a dark orange on top of a light orange. Watch what happens when I turn off the orange ink. It all goes away. Nothing knocks anything out because an orange won't knock out a tint of orange. You understand that, everybody, right? Okay, so that's how you mix these swatches in Illustrator, right?
But didn't you combine those two colors you had?
Yes, and I did that in InDesign. So
Oh, okay.
I wanted to show you this in Illustrator. So that's how you do Illustrator. And I could do the same thing here with my black. I can take all these color guide tints and drag them on in, right? So, and you can eyedrop anything and add that swatch by dragging it into your swatch panel. Just gives you things to work with. Or you can work with none. I mean, I could just highlight that, take my slider bar and change it. Highlight that, take my slider bar and change it. I don't have to really build swatches. When I'm in InDesign, I'm going to select all unused colors here also because I don't like looking at so many, and I'm going to trash them. You got to be careful if you're using this black that you don't mistake it for the process black. Even though it's going to look the same, it's going to create a third color. All right. And you also have to make sure, if I turn off my spot black here, notice my type is black, my type is black, my type is black. So that is bad news for me. So I have to select all this type, make it spot black. Select all this type, make it spot black. Select all this type, make it spot black. So everything disappears. Don't fall into that trap. All right? Now, what your question was, how do you do the mixed ink swatches here? So in InDesign, it's the only place you can do this. You can go to your color panel, your swatch panel, and go to Mixed Ink Group. And what group do you want? I want my orange, and I want my black spot. And I really should call this black C, oops, black C. And my orange is really 7143, but the name has no impact on it. But I want to select only that spot color, only that spot color. I want it to change in increments of, let's say, 3% at a time. And I want it to repeat itself 30 times. And 30 times, I'm making this stuff up. And I can preview swatches. And so I've created too many. They exceed over 100%. So it's going to generate only valid swatches. Okay. And I probably have 100. Oh, I have 121 swatches I just made by picking random numbers. And I say, okay, and those 121 swatches now have loaded in here. So I can select my background, which is made up of both black and orange right here. And that's my background color. So that, ooh, that's a beautiful color, right? And yeah, John.
You can also trick Illustrator into doing this. And I have a tutorial up on how to do it.
And it's on his johnlemon.info page for this assignment. And anyway, so there you go. So right now, for example, I could and maybe I'm going to pick a very clean sans serif font of Helvetica condensed bold, and I can make it a mixed ink swatch, which probably isn't a very good idea, to be honest with you, because that's making two colors sit perfectly on top of each other. But you can. It's a bad design idea, honestly. But here I go. I just did. And what I want you to notice is it looks like a gray. But if I turn off my orange, the color is still there. And if I turn off my black, you can see this little light orange. Can you see it there? No, you can't. Let me change my color. There. So there, it's got more orange in it. There's the color with the black. That's your mixing swatches. Did I miss anything? No? Okay, so back to your answers again. To keep this a two-color file, you probably want to type this in spot black or whatever spot color you have. And then the discussion of elements, you need to refer back to the design principles lecture. And then, of course, ultimately, you're going to make sure that you've included all the criteria. And by answering all this, you know, you're sure to do so. If I come back to our assignment, and notice that right here, this is not 35 points, this is 40 points. So if you don't include just this information accurately, your assignment, even if you set it up perfectly, you're not going to get better than 60%. So be sure you're doing it properly, right? And then how to package this artwork is you go to File, Package. You shouldn't have any red warning symbols. You package it. Got to save your art first. You can fill that out. We're going to put it on the desktop, the folder. It's going to copy the native document. It's going to place my fonts in there. Let's look at it. So here we are on the desktop. Here's my postcard folder I just packaged. Here's my native document recreated. Here's those two fonts I used. Look at, I used more. And here's my bat, my broom, my witch, right? And notice that I did use one clip art graphic, but I was able to create other art from it. So, and the reason why I made them in separate Illustrator files was it allowed me to place them and scale them and rotate them, which gave me more design flexibility when I was creating it. And now here's my InDesign document. I'm going to go to File, WPDF, Preset, High Quality Print to export it. Locate my postcard folder right here. I'm going to place it in my postcard folder as a PDF. I'm going to specify all printers, marks, and bleeds and use document bleed settings for sure. And I want to make sure I have all 3 pages. I'll view it after exporting. And you know it's going to launch preview on this computer, unfortunately. But I'll close that up. And what will happen is John and I will open your file in Acrobat Professional. We'll go locate it. We'll open the PDF. We will immediately go to Window, what do we do? View, Print Production, and we go to turn on our Output Preview window, which is like your color separation window. And I'm going to turn off my black and turn off my orange. It looks like I succeeded there. Oh, I must have only output one page. That was not smart. Let's come back. I thought I said all, didn't I? Maybe not. Let's replace it. All pages. There we go. Marks and bleeds. Document bleed settings. Export. Okay, close that. We'll open it in Acrobat Preview. In Acrobat Professional. We're going to open it, locate it, view it. Okay, so I turned off the black here, turned off the orange there. Go to page 2. John and I are going to look for your return address. We're going to look for your indicia with the proper information that you can refer to the link on the homepage in Moodle and locate indicia information. You're not going to have Greeking here. You're going to have whatever type you want. You can have a poem by Edgar Allan Poe, right? Because he writes all those creepy raven poems. And then you're going to look at page 3, and we're going to see that you filled out everything properly. We're going to read your discussion of everything. And again, we're going to turn off all our colors. And we're going to make sure that everything has no color in it when we turn off our 2-spot colors. Did I miss anything? Clear? So the idea is to have a really fun time with this. This is your first, let me add it, good time. Okay? Have a good time with it. But just keep in mind that you have postal requirements for it and 2-spot color requirements. Aside from that, knock yourself out, right? No more questions, yeah? Alrighty. So we'll see you Wednesday. John and I will be here on Wednesday to help you with whatever you need. So thank you for being so patient.